This was originally going to be a challenge guide where I spent about a minute talking about the new maps at the beginning, but turns out there's a lot more to talk about than that. Greetings everyone, and what a time of mixed feelings, an exciting time, a disappointing time, but I mean, we knew this was gonna happen. Supply drops. Hold up just a second though, it isn't as bad as you might think. There are some things I do like, and some things I'm not a big fan of, but I want to go through everything we got as fairly as possible, and I'll try to explain why the game has not been ruined, although they really are walking a razor's edge, especially because this is a remake of COD 4. I want it to be faithful, and they've done such a good job of doing that so far. I don't want them to mess with this game, that's what it really comes down to, and a lot of people feel that way. Before we dive into the specifics and go through everything that changed, this was a huge update after all, I'll give my big takeaway from all this, if that's all you're interested in. The game has not been ruined the way it is right now, don't overreact, but I like to think I'm not an idiot, and I can look back at the progression of Black Ops 3. It got melee weapons and purely cosmetic things added into supply drops around December, right? And history would point out that that has the tendency to spiral out of control as time goes on. We really just have to hope that Raven can fight away the Activision devils. I'm making that up, of course, because that's the narrative I'd like to believe, but we really just have to hope that doesn't happen to this game, that they realize, hey, this is a remake of COD 4, and maybe messing with it too much will get yet another large portion of the fans you still have left to leave. You can tell I'm just frustrated with the decisions they're making because I want to be a part of a positive gaming community, you know, where people are talking about the game they're enjoying, but they're doing everything they can to ruin that. Honestly, if they mess this up, the game that I love, that will be a bit of a symbolic last straw, not to sound all melodramatic, because I know nobody cares, but if they do something bad in a future update, I don't believe I will purchase another Call of Duty game after that. I wouldn't want them to have my money anymore. Please do not kill MWR. I want to love you, Modern Warfare. Alright, well let's get into things, starting with something positive. We've known about this update coming for a long time. We now have the 6 other maps of COD 4 as well as Winter Crash, which I definitely predicted they would do, commonly known as Christmas Crash, but by the way, it has always been called Winter Crash officially, just in case you think they changed the name to be more politically correct or something. No, it has always been Winter Crash. There's a lot to this map, they did a great job with it. Most notably, there are challenges you can complete on this map to earn extra camos like the gift wrap and ugly sweater. I don't really care about the extra camos because eventually I'll just be using the gold or the exclusion zone and everything, but pretty cool. All this stuff added in for free. I know some people will take the stance of, oh well, obviously it should have been free, they should have included it from the start, but I don't know why you have to take a good thing and make it negative for no reason. We have other things to be negative about, don't you worry. And I mean, this game was only meant as an add-on to Infinite Warfare, even though it's the only game I've played, but I have no reason to paint Raven in a negative light for adding all the maps in for free. They have done a lot of things right, from the game itself matching the original, to the community managing and the updates they've had so far. But now, we have something else to talk about. Weapon kits, melee weapons, and supply drops. Oh my. We talked about the maps being a positive, so let's jump to a negative so we can alternate back and forth. The thing I do not like about this update are the melee weapons, and I will go through why. The fact that you can take out a melee weapon by holding triangle, or Y, and you can run around with it is the one change to gameplay that has been made, sort of, because in a game where panic knifing is a thing, you could just run around with a pistol and achieve nearly the same effect as running around with a melee weapon. I don't know at this point if there are any buffs to lunge range or movement speed if you have a melee weapon. Hopefully not. Still though, the initial fear there is, god damn it, this could end up like Black Ops 3 where people are running around with melee weapons, and that sounds really fucking annoying. Thankfully, there are a couple reasons why that won't happen, and this should not plague the game the way it did before. Number one being, since this game doesn't have all the advanced movement, the sliding and the jetpacks and the wall running, melee weapons will be much harder to use that way, and it just isn't a good strategy. You're putting yourself at a distinct disadvantage if you go melee only. And number two, and this is the biggest reason, I did some research, I found someone who unlocked a melee weapon, and it looks like there are no camo challenges for the melee weapons. Hopefully I'm right on that, it's hard to confirm right now, but if that is the case, thank God, because that was one of the biggest incentives for people to get kills with their melee weapons. Oh hey, only 100 kills until I get my gold bayonet. But thankfully there are no melee camos, I believe, so there shouldn't be a huge influx of people using them. So not the end of the world, but I am not a big fan of the melee weapons, mostly because I'm worried about what the future is for them. They already added in 6 of them, and of course I think that some of them are cool, like the bayonet animations are nice, and at least it's actually a knife. But in this first update, there are already things like a shovel, a hammer, an ice pick, and a beer bottle. What else are they going to add? Surely they didn't just blow their entire load of ideas in this first update, and I really just fear that it will follow the path of Black Ops 3 and stray further and further away from the military theme, and that could be really bad. Now back to more of a positive. I'm sure this is the unpopular opinion, but I will say that I like what they did with the weapon kits. Keep in mind, this is only judging what they have in the game right now. I am allowed to change my opinion in the future if they add in some crazy bullshit. My opinion right now is not static, final, never allowed to be changed. But yeah, I like them. This is exactly what I had in mind when I said a cosmetic weapon variant. It isn't anything crazy. Maybe the weirdest one is the AK-47 with the recoil spring exposed, but it isn't like the rainbow space theme crazy, and that's what I don't want. This is just interesting. It fits in the theme of Modern Warfare. The iron sights stay the same. Nothing about the handling or the damage changes. All those boxes are checked. It's just a realistic style variant of a weapon that is already in the game. I like that. That's a perfectly acceptable thing to have in a supply drop system for a relatively casual game like Call of Duty. I can't see what about that you could really hate so much as to say the game is ruined because of it. They even have the salvage system copied from IW, so if you're frustrated that you're not unlocking the one thing you really want, with a bit of saving up, you can definitely get that thing. It isn't completely left up to chance. So just that aspect I think is a cool thing. Feel free to disagree with me. And finally, what I think is mostly a neutral, maybe a little bit of a negative, are the new camos, calling cards, emblems, reticles, and so on. I really just don't care. They're there to clutter up the supply drop system. There's also a ton of personal customization now, which I guess is neat if it stays military and doesn't get too colorful and weird. There's a lot of customization in this game now. Anyway, the camos and all that don't matter to me because I would rather use the camos and calling cards and emblems that I have unlocked. I would rather show off that I completed a tough challenge and I earned a cool animated thing than show off that I got some lucky thing out of a box. That just does not interest me. The only way for this to turn from a neutral-ish to more of a negative is if the camos get too flashy and no longer fit the theme of Modern Warfare. And to be honest, they're already getting there. Look at how much bling I can put on my pistols with what I already have. That's pretty insane. The shapes camo, that prismatic purple thing, and I can combine that with the competition pistol kit. It seems like they unlock for the entire class of weapons instead of just one weapon, which is nice, I guess. But please, no chrome camo, no psychedelic type thing, and no, I didn't mispronounce that. Psychedelic was a gear pattern in Black Ops 3. Anywho, yeah, nowhere to go but down for that part of the supply drops. It's either going to be neutral-ish or more of a negative, depending on how crazy they go. Well, that is most of what I wanted to cover. I think that's most of what we got. The new maps for free, awesome. The weapon kits, pretty cool, I suppose. The melee weapons, no, I'd really rather they didn't. And please don't expand on that anymore, even though they obviously likely will. And everything else, I don't really care. Hopefully they just keep it reasonable. I guess that was quite literally the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good maps and weapon kits, the bad melee weapons, and the ugly camos. And we also have Hardpoint and gun game now, I guess I never mentioned that. So overall, like I said at the beginning, no, the game has certainly not been ruined for me, and in fact, if it stayed like this forever, I would think this update has been a net improvement, with all the new maps especially, and a pretty fair supply drop system as of right now. I'm even more excited to hop on and play than I was before. However, the big but to all of that is the looming concern of what's next. What is the next step? I can only see it getting crazier with flashier camos and sillier melee weapons, and that is a big worry of mine. Please, no dabbing characters, no boxing gloves and pizza cutters, and definitely no new weapons. Do not throw the Galil in there, don't throw the FAL in there, no Striker, no PP2K. If they head in that direction, they're gonna lose me, and not that they care about me, but I believe they're gonna lose a lot of people who feel similarly, and I don't want that to happen, I really don't. Well, thanks for listening to me rant my feels on the massive update we got. Just remember, really not a big deal in the grand scheme of the world, but this is a game I'm passionate about, at least for now. I'll turn my attention back to the challenge guides I had planned, and as soon as I can escape finals alive, hopefully I can get some of those done. Happy holidays, everyone. Just remember, try to look at the positives and not the negatives. You'll live a happier life. Well, I will catch you next time.